Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, the first of 2020. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. As you can expect, Let's Talk Chelsea is going to be about transfers for the next few weeks, not only because it's the start of the January transfer window, but pretty much since Cass overturned Chelsea's transfer ban, it's been all about who Chelsea may or may not sign within this window, and we are going to find out how serious Chelsea are regarding transfers in the coming weeks. Just before I go into them, my rational perspective on Brighton was up yesterday, so go and check that out. Also, just as the year was wrapping up, I made of the decade list, so my team of the decade and wins of the decade, so go and check that out. But going into it, Liam Toomey wrote an article for The Athletic speaking about Chelsea's transfer business and what to expect from Chelsea within this window. Just to give you a segment of it, he said Chelsea have reached a clarifying point in their season. A bruising festive schedule has hardened Frank Lampard's judgment of the players he trusts in his squad and the ones he does not. I think the most interesting thing that Liam goes into in his article is not only the need to replace Hazard's creation and goals, which when you look at the recent home defeats to West Ham, Bournemouth and Southampton, and as well in other games, I think of Brighton as well, that lack of creativity at the right end of the pitch. I think all of that, of course, needs to be addressed in some form or fashion by Lampard. But also, I think what the interesting point he makes is the list of Chelsea's most expensive signings. When you look at Kepa, when you look at Alvaro Morata, Fernando Torres, Andrei Shevchenko, I'd say 3 of those 4 have not been good signings. I think Kepa, still in his early period of his career, and as you saw against Brighton, can be a very valuable player for Chelsea. And in contrast, looking at Chelsea's less expensive signings, when you look at Costa and N'Golo Kante, Chelsea sort of pouncing on favourable buyout clauses for players and how that can work. I think that's very interesting, and Matt Law from the Telegraph talks about this when he's speaking about Timo Werner and how Timo Werner apparently may have a release clause that could be activated in the January transfer window as Chelsea sort of weigh up their options. But there has been confusion over a supposed release clause in Werner's contract that has been quoted as low as 25.6 million and as high as 51.2 in recent months, which Chelsea have tried to clarify. And that is something interesting, and Chelsea could pounce on that. And if it is as low as 25.6 million and Chelsea can get that deal over the line, what a signing that could be for Chelsea. It's going to be interesting with Werner, and I think similarly with Dembele is I think the biggest stumbling block for those players is coming to Chelsea and maybe having that thing of Tammy Abraham being first choice, and potentially having to sit on the bench for some games when they've got guaranteed minutes at the clubs they're at, especially Werner. You look at Leipzig at the moment, they're doing so well, potentially a Bundesliga title, and as well they got their Champions League knockout round coming up, which Werner could star in. I think that's a difficulty for Chelsea, and for any club in this window, it's always difficult to sign massive players because there's, you're halfway into a season and, players feel very settled. It's a lot easier, I think, for Werner at the end of the year to come to Chelsea and to sort of pack his bags. I think at the moment that's what's so difficult and can really increase the price, but that buyout clause could be there and that could be something Chelsea could work on, which I think is good. My general feeling, and I could go through every sort of player that's been linked to Chelsea at the moment and give you my opinion on whether I think they're a good signing or not. I do think that's a little bit reductive, and I do think that I get a little bit tired of all that stuff because partly I think I could say with a lot of those players, are they going to fit into our system? Do we really need them? Do we need that player in that area? Could Chelsea, look to our academy? Can we improve the players we have at the moment? Can Lampard improve his coaching? Can Lampard improve his system to maximise the creativity he has at the moment? I think we've seen that in earlier parts of the year. I definitely think Chelsea need to strengthen in some areas, but I think it's smart recruitment for me, and I've always stressed this, and I will continue to stress this. I don't just want Chelsea going to sign big players because it will please some of the fan base because, it's a massive signing and it's a big name. If Wilfried Zaha is, one of the names that keeps on being brought up, right, and it feels like a natural fit. I actually think out of all the big players, if you want to call it that, like let's say the big 3, right, you look at Chilwell, Sancho and Zaha, right, they're the names that constantly are being linked to probably the most well-known names. Out of those, I think Zaha's the most realistic because this is a player who's been edging for a move out of Palace for a long time. But do I want Zaha? I've said this before, not really, because I think there are better options maybe in that area. And also, I still have some questions over, Zaha's output. But at the same time, is Zaha's Chelsea's first option? If he's not, then I don't think Chelsea should spend big money on him. That could potentially restrict our business in the summer. But if he is Chelsea's first choice and we can get him, then happy days. I'm not going to question, the scouting or, whether what Frank Lampard believes in a player or not. I'm not in those meetings. I don't know. And I think it'd be, kind of stupid for me to believe, and say, I'm better placed to judge players than others. I think that especially people who work in the professional game, that's the thing. But that's sort of my key sort of worry is Chelsea signing players because they're available and going for short term over long term. I think that needs to be the clear distinction. distinction for me. I do think there's been an improvement in Chelsea's reinforcement recently. You know, when I look at Pulisic, when I look at Kepa, when I look at Kovacic, when I look at Jorginho, further back than that, you know, I think all of those players have benefited Chelsea, and I think they're the type of profile player Chelsea should be going for if the style of football we want to play. And, you know, Lampard talks about quick and athletic players, and pretty much all the players that have been linked perfectly fit that mold. It's just in this window, I think you always struggle to get your first choice because of naturally the short time within the window and also the period of the year. And I think that's interesting. If it's a name that isn't on the lips of everyone, but is a player that is perfect for what Lampard wants to do with Chelsea, then happy days. I'm not too concerned about the name. I'm not too concerned about the price tag. It's just got to be the best player for our system, because I've seen it so often recently of Chelsea. We signed players short term. Higuain last year. Sure, I think a lot of us, we know we needed a striker, but that didn't help us at all. And I don't want Chelsea rushing into signings that we don't really need. And then in 6 months' time, we regret it and we need to get that player off the books, and it restricts us in other areas. So those are sort of my feelings. I think it's going to be a very interesting window. I think it really is. How serious are Chelsea? I think that's the big question we all have, right? And I think that personally, if Chelsea can sign the right players or, you know, their biggest targets, then brilliant. But if they can't and they wait, I think there is a lot of fans like me who do think that, you know, I want to see what Lampard can do with his current team. I want to see some of these players get full seasons. I want to see Mason Mount get a full season. I want to see Tammy Abraham get a full season. Reece James now coming into the side for Fikayo Tomori. I do think there as well the areas that Chelsea don't need to strengthen. I don't think we need central midfielders. When I look at, you know, Ruben coming back soon, and that area is pretty stacked. I think obviously you could look at left back. I think that is an area we do need to strengthen because of some of the players leaving. And I also think striking options. I think Giroud will be off soon, and I think, you know, Michy, we know the struggles he has and, you know, the deficiencies within his game. So I'd say those are my two sort of key areas that I think Chelsea need to strengthen in. But if the players aren't available within this window, I'd rather Chelsea wait until the summer to make their move and to get the player that's best for Chelsea. So those are sort of my opinions. So that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.